Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis.
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
Good day and welcome to our podcast. This is CampHacker, episode 96, recorded on the 18th of January, 2017. On today's show, what are you going to do differently this summer? If you would like easy, automatic, free updates of our podcast, you can subscribe in iTunes or use the free Stitcher app. This week's CampHacker podcast is sponsored by Go Camp Pro. Go Camp Pro is a year-round online camp conference for the true summer camp mavericks, the camp pros who can't stand it when people say, "But that's how we've always done it." Go Camp Pro is a community of year-round summer camp staffers who empower each other to make the big changes that camp needs so that our campers and staff will go and change the world. To try it for free, go to www.gocamp.pro. And this week's episode is sponsored by camp pros like you who support the show on Patreon. We want to thank those patrons who have been supporting the show from the beginning and without fail. David G., Andy L., Marie W., Teresa ML, Lisa Summer Fun, Ange A., Jack and Laura, and Mark P. If you've got even one good idea from the CampHacker podcast, you can show your support for the show for as little as $1 per episode. We've got some great rewards too, just like a Kickstarter campaign. Please go to patreon.com/CampHacker. We hope you enjoy the CampHacker show.
Hello, Camp Pros, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast. My name is Travis Allison. I am a co-founder of Go Camp Pro and, of course, CampHacker. We at Go Camp Pro run a year-round camp conference for Camp Mavericks, and we'd be excited for you to join us.
And my name is Gabrielle Real. I'm one of the camp directors at Camp Waro. Camp Waro is an all-girls camp in the Laurentians in Quebec, and it's my 20-something year working there. I'm super stoked to be here today.
My name's Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams Christian Centre, which is a United Church of Canada summer camp and retreat facility located in Fingal, Ontario, which is halfway between Detroit and Toronto.
Hi, I'm Neva Baltzel. I'm the resident director of Camp Cherry Lake, a 4-H center in Madison, Florida, which is just south of the Georgia border.
Neva, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Well, thanks for having me, Travis.
Neva's a great contact that Joe's introduced us to over the years, and want to take just a minute to get to know her. So, Neva, how did you get involved in summer camp? What was your first experience?
I actually was that person that never went to summer camp.
Yeah.
I married into camp.
Right.
And so when my former husband got a camp job, I came with him. We raised a family. I kept the job, did not keep the husband. We're great friends still.
Yeah. And
I have fallen in love with it.
Right
it's a great opportunity to meet some really amazing folks.
That's awesome. So for you, what was the I don't know if there was there one particular moment that made you say, all right, now I'm a camp person?
I think it was my second summer at camp and watching my 2-year-old little girl toddle around to these awesome camp counselors we had, as well as camp staff, and they just took her under their wing, and I realized that I loved these people and I loved the experience they were getting. And I was so sad I had not had that experience as a child myself, and really decided that that was the moment that learning everything I could about camping was going to be the most important thing for me so I could do a great job.
Well, and you do a great job. I've seen how much people look up to you, Neva. So it's congratulations on making that choice and sticking with it. And we're grateful to have you here today.
It's been a good run so far.
Awesome. Well, before we begin our topic, I just want to say that we appreciate those people who've taken the time to go to iTunes and leave us a review there. Some people do it on the Stitcher app. Some people do it through other Android means as well, through the Google Play Store. And those ratings and reviews are helpful to us to know, what works and what you're interested in, but really also to help us figure out now help us spread the word really about camp and CampHacker and what we do here. So we're grateful if you do that. If you are interested in leaving a review on iTunes, that's the simplest process. You go to camphacker.tv/iTunes, and it opens up your iTunes and gives you a way to do that right there. Today we're going to be talking about thinking forward to the summer. This is the first recording of 2017, and January is usually the first. It sort of feels like the first time that it feels like you've turned a corner and camp is coming now. And I know people are getting excited, anticipating, and maybe a bit scared now that 2017 summer seems real. So we wanted to take some time and talk about that. And our real question for today is, what are you going to do different? Many of us on this call have had many summers of being camp directors, and we get the privilege of finishing one summer and knowing that the next one's coming, that it's not just seasonal for us. And I think that leads to thinking differently about camp, because you see it as a multi-year process. And so this question involves thinking about last season and then thinking ahead to this year. And so, Gab, I wonder if I could start with you. I'd like to ask you at Woro, what are you folks planning on doing differently this year?
Mine's a little bit more on a philosophical level. I had, yeah, is that all right?
Yeah.
I had some chats with some of my returning leadership team members, and with 2016 and a lot of turmoil that's going on politically and just around the world, I've noticed that there's a panic amongst a lot of my staff members. And I had this great conversation with one of my leadership team members who was thinking of applying back, but she just really wanted to she had this urgency to make a positive impact on the world. And she said that she needed to find something that can do that. And this is somebody that's been coming to camp for many years, and is somebody that I've worked closely with. And I was blinking in disbelief, and I said, well, what do you think we're doing at camp? And she's like, oh, I know what we're doing, but, I really feel like I need to do something more. And I realized that I do make our big picture clear, but my goal and role this year is to make our big picture even bigger and clearer and a little bit more and a lot more transparent. And so she wasn't the only one. This was a conversation I had with multiple of my best of staff members who make such a difference in our organization. And I think sometimes I don't express how much what they're doing, specifically how they're doing it, that impacts, but also providing that space and time throughout the year to talk about our intention behind some of the work that we're doing and what is the long-term effects. But it's I'm happy to say that she is returning because I was able to have that conversation and over a couple of times. And I'm also not the type of director that tries to convince people to come back to camp. I think it's like trying to convince somebody to stay in a relationship. I don't think it's healthy. But I do think that camp still has this, Neva was just talking about being somebody outside of camp coming in and seeing the power and the impact that it can have. But from the outside, it has that it's a place where you just have fun. And even with your closest of staff members, we have to be constantly talking about the importance of the work that we do and the greater impact that it has. So I'm going to be a lot more intentional with my staff this year.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So, Gab, what sort of questions are you asking them to have them reconsider impact?
What do you mean? In what way?
Well, I know what you're trying to do is challenge them to see camp as being a place that they have real concrete impact. And so I suspect that part of that is asking them questions to just make them consider what impact it's had on them or things they've seen in others that camp has impacted. I just wondered what those questions were, but I think it'd be useful.
Yeah, I basically, one of the things that I did specifically with this person was I said, let's rename our organization. And I said, our company is now called Impact, a place for girls to find their voices.
Yeah.
So I said, this is the organization you're going to work for. And what the company does is they use an outdoor environment to create friendships and challenge the girls to face confrontation and work through those confrontations. And that's to help them with their confidence, and that's to help them voice their opinions. And that's what we really, really want them to do. And as the longer they stay, they learn problem-solving skills. And that is all used. We used outdoor activities to help them develop those skills. Now, how do you feel about talking to other people if you work for an organization like that? And it flipped a switch for her. She was like, that's the type of company I want to work for. And I was like, well, and she knew what I was doing. It wasn't like she's very smart. There's an outside noise coming from her parents. There's an outside noise. She goes to the University of British Columbia, where there's a lot of activism. I'm from Montreal. There's also a lot of activism at Concordia University, but summer camp just didn't have that impact. And when she's talking to other people, and I said, we need to reframe, from the outside in and look at what we're doing, and what are some things that we can do with our staff? And one of the things that she's come up with was in the evenings, of course, we have some staff activities, we have movie nights, or et cetera, a lot of things that we do for team building. But she wants to start hosting conversations on social issues, environmental issues, where it's just an open space where people can talk and ask questions. And I've mentioned that to a couple of our other staff members, and this is something they're very excited about. They have a lot of questions, they have a lot of anxiety. And I want camp to be a place where they can talk about those things and grow as a group and individuals.
Yeah, that's so smart, Gab. Thank you for sharing that. Such a perfect way to start us off. Neva, for you, Joe and Neva, I'm happy if you jump in if you have any questions for Gab about that process. But also, what sort of things are you thinking about doing differently for this year?
I will say in our camping program, we are actually overhauling our whole camp staff training system. Normally we do 3 weekends in addition to a week-long training. So we have a lot of time with them over a course of a semester of their school, basically. And this year we are not doing any of the weekend trainings because it's so hard to get folks to commit to that. So we're changing to a 10-day training model, which is a big change in our organization.
Yeah.
So we actually are really excited to have more of the conversations like Gab mentioned about social issues and getting them to rethink how we do being at camp. What are the things that we really want to accomplish? What are our objectives? How do we get that trust from parents for their children to be at camp? And then how do we get our 4-H agents to buy into that system? Because we're not a direct sell. We have to go through 4-H agents who don't always buy into all the good things that camp does for kids.
Right. So thinking about agents in particular, I think this would be really interesting to folks who come from different kinds of agencies. What have you been talking about in terms of strategy, but talking to them about the value of camp?
We really talk about our 4 essential elements, which are belonging, mastery, independence, and generosity. And we specifically focus on that independence, helping kids get away from mom and dad, get away from their technology, and be at camp where they have to learn how to have a conversation. They have to learn how to be in a cabin with someone that they may not like immediately or at all during their stay at camp, and how to have those conversations with people that are different from them, which is conversations that we don't have very often in our everyday sort of going through the motions world.
Yeah. So what's the medium for those conversations with agents?
Our camp directors, I have 2 other camp directors in my state and myself, we go to a lot of their meetings and just have those individual conversations. It's a lot of face-to-face, just convincing them that camp is a great place to bring kids. And it's the one time of the year where they get to interact directly with kids for an entire week, as opposed to working with volunteers or doing trainings with other adults.
Right. Very cool. And what sort of questions did the organization, did the 4-H of Florida ask? So is it just Cherry Lake that's changing training time, or everybody across the organization?
It's the entire organization. I actually get the privilege of being in charge of all of our staff training for all 3 of our camp facilities. We bring all the teens and our young adults together to do training, our college age staff.
Right. So what were the questions that led you folks to changing? I mean, you said you had a hard time getting people to come, but what sort of considerations did you consider? What considerations did you consider to change it to a 10-day process?
Well, some of it was just the inability to get people to commit to those weekends, but some of it came out of when you and Laura actually came and did our workshop last spring. Yeah. And we just decided that it was a better format to do a longer training so that we could get more of those agents in to help do some of the training with the kids, or I call them kids, the camp staff. Yeah. So that they see that they are qualified young people, young adults who are going to do a great job for them. And that helps with buy-in. That's awesome. I'm picking apart everybody's thinking on this because I think it's really interesting for others on the outside to see just how deep each one of the panelists considers the big picture of camp. Joe, is there some philosophical changes that you're thinking about for Pierce Williams this year?
Really, mine's not. I'm not sure. Every year I go through philosophical. I was just counting up. This will be my 21st summer as a camp director this summer, and I think every year, one of the major changes that's happened here at Pierce Williams is my summer director has moved on after 5 summers and gone back to Teachers College. So I'm have lost Ika, and part of that has forced myself and the board to just think through. To think through what we're looking for as a camp and how we act as a facility in a camp. And I've had some conversations with a few different people recently about the summer camp director position. And when I first started thinking about it in November, December, I thought it was just someone to be a placeholder, right? Someone to mentor the staff and continue the program we have. And then over the holidays, when you're away from everything, because I go somewhere away, disconnected from the world for the holidays, I got to think about the fact that what I'm really looking for is someone who can keep affecting positive change, right? If we stay the same, if you as a camp or any organization just stays the same, you're losing ground, because you need to continually strive to be better than you were. And so that's really a renewed focus of what we're doing this year is to say we're at this point and we need to continue to grow. So we have some amazing programs at Pierce Williams, or what I think are amazing programs and unique programs, but we also have to continue to look for what's unique and amazing and how to continue to look for that next stage. There's, so that change is more of the philosophical, or just, I'm not even sure it's a change as more of a clarifying of thinking, right? Because we've always been at Pierce Williams in my time, we've always strived to find what's next, to try and continue to move forward and see what the future can be for camps. And the benefit here is that it's not based on program, right? We don't buy the latest sailboat to get ahead because we don't have a lake. We don't. Yeah. So changes here are more, I don't know what the word is, but they're just more internal in the way camp is run versus adding program and right. So adding programs is like adding graphics, right, to a computer. You're adding the ability for more graphics, but you might not be improving the program that the computer is running. Right. You can look at it better, right? So that's one change. I have a variety of other small things that I often think about. Sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. Yeah. But that's more the philosophical change, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So in the end, are you looking for a director to stay with you for a while? Or are you going to hire just a summer director for now, or where did you land?
I haven't landed anywhere yet. Okay. I've landed in the... if I find the right person who can be someone who can continue to help camp grow, and they want to be at camp and they can be here for the next 3 to 5 summers, that would be great. Mm-hmm. If I need to find someone who's this summer only, that is also doable. It's just what we've realized as a board is moving forward. A lot of our ideas, my ideas that I bring up, need money.
Yeah.
And if my job is to run camp, then my job, I can't find as much money as, I have a grant list that's 12 grants long right now. Mm-hmm. And I really need to get those in so that we can move forward with another new program. We have a plastic upcycling program we're starting this summer. And so we need someone to do the hiring, the contracts, the planning for staff training, all of those things.
Right.
At this stage, I need someone who can do that. And so I haven't landed anywhere yet. It's finding the right person and seeing how we go forward.
Yeah. So a couple things come up for me. I will let the three of you think about sort of program level, on the ground level things that you've been thinking about, while I talk about a couple of ideas that come up for me in the things that you've said. One thing that I always wanted to be as a camp director, and I think we got a lot of the way there, but I want to have the same kind of impact that my camp director had. When I was a camper for those 7 years, we had the same director when I was growing up at Camp Kintail, and his name is Bob Ferris. And I think that his length of term that he was there had a lot of impact and sort of made it feel like there's a generation of Bob Ferris camp people. I never worked under him. He was just my director when I was a kid and until I was a teen. But one of the things that I really felt growing up at Camp Kintail was a deep inspiration from Bob and from the staff that we were people who could make a difference in the world. And definitely social justice was a big part of his philosophy in the world. I think it turned out some amazing people who've gone on to do fascinating, great stuff. Probably all camps that have a good, stable leader will have years of staff that go on to do amazing things. But I think what came out of that time was this focus on others and justice, and I think that that's a great thing. I'm really inspired by what Woro's doing, and in this discussion, Gab, that you're having with your community about how do we not just say we're doing these things, but how do we show people what we're doing? And I think that camps, despite the fact that I think it's important, I think that camps often get stuck just saying camp is fun and your kids need to have fun and you should come to have fun with us and we're safe but fun. And I think if we're going to inspire people in this world to send their kids to this place, then we have to talk big picture things. We have to talk about values and the leadership team's values in that too. So I'm really inspired by that. It's really, really great. The other thing that comes up for me based on what Joe's talking about is an idea that I've had that I don't know who implements it or how, but something I think would be amazingly handy is for camps that have summer only or seasonal directors to have a pool, basically to have a company that can supply a well-trained, really thoughtful summer director to camps that need them. They can go in and say, does this person's philosophy match up with yours? And they're people that have that can come from outside and be comfortable in a new situation and really push a camp forward. And that's one of the things I've been thinking about lately is what would it take to become the agency that camps that hire summer directors hire their people from. And that's one of the bigger picture things that I've been thinking about, considering what camps need and where camps really struggle, because I know it's hard to hire seasonal leadership team members. It'd be fun to have a company that provides a pool of those that are well and thoroughly vetted. Aniva, for you folks, is there some program level changes that you're considering?
A lot of our program level changes have to do with how we process the camper's day with them throughout the course of the day and then at the end of the day. Yeah. We are really trying to get our youth to reflect on what are they feeling throughout the course of the day, because we're really, based on our camper evaluations that we get through the summer, we're really seeing that there have been in the past some bullying behaviors that have happened in the cabins or during activities where our young ladies or our young gentlemen don't feel comfortable having conversations or voicing their opinions. So we are really looking to push having great conversations and having those accepting conversations and moving into the realm of getting our campers to understand why they don't like something or why they do like something and why people are different.
Right. And what sort of tools are you looking to help set up those discussions?
We are doing a lot of training with our program staff. Every evening we do something called Power Down Pals, where our program staff are assigned to different cabins, and they go in and they are just checking on the physical and emotional safety and well-being of those campers. They physically go to the cabin, make sure everyone has what they need, and then talk them through their day. What was good? What wasn't good? Are there any conversations you need to have about any problems you're having? Right. And so training up our college-age camp staff to just have great in-depth conversations, and including their teen camp counselors.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. How about for you, Joe? Is there stuff that's more program and less top levels that you're thinking of?
Yeah, a couple of summers ago, we changed our program entirely from cabin-based, where they travel as cabins, to individual choice. And so we keep tweaking that idea. We used Wingate Kirkland. Will at Wingate Kirkland was kind enough. Wingate Kirkland's a camp on Cape Cod. He was kind enough to give us their program sheet and talk us through the way they do choice-based programming. And so we've been tweaking that, and we'll continue. I had the thought yesterday that it would be super awesome to we do cabin photos, and we do photos through the week, but it would be super awesome to treat arrival. And arrival here is kids get dropped off. There's no bus, and their parents are dropping them off. They go to a cabin and whatnot. And so we have people at the sign greeting the cars and people parking helping park the cars. And then myself and my summer director are at the car. I had the thought that it would be great to do before and after pictures with the whole family.
Yeah.
Right. So a before picture with a camper and the parents and whatever brothers and sisters, and then do that on the way out as well. There's going to be a lot of planning involved in it. I almost had the inn as, a Pierce Williams backdrop, like a news conference backdrop, and they can just step into the booth and get their picture taken and then move on their way. I wonder what that would show us with the looks on kids' faces, because the first day, if you see kids over a number of summers, that first day you see a lot of trepidation in some kids, and it would be very interesting to put those pictures side by side of not just, and I'm not sure I want to do just the camper. I like the idea of doing the whole family, and go from there. So that's an idea. As far as training wise, we've had some. I want to change and have more returning staff mentors at training week. So we do a weekend training and then we do a week-long training. And just to find returning staff to spend the week with us, helping with that week-long training to do things like the Camp Counselor testimonials, which is something we created a couple of years ago in the Camp Counselor Institute, of just sitting down and talking with the staff about your tips and tricks on being a camp counselor. I know that Travis and Beth did it with the Camp Counselor Institute people, and they honestly said in our feedback from the Camp Counselor Institute, the Camp Counselor testimonials was one of the top two things that helped them through the rest of their summer as they went to training. So I really want to build that up. And then the same, I feel like I should plan for the summer more, but I'm not sure that's ever going to happen. It always sneaks up on me. 21 summers in, it's still like June comes and you're like, what the hell? Summer camp's here? What's going on?
Yeah.
The Camp Counselor Testimonials, Joe, sounds like an awesome new podcast.
It does.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Have
somebody go around and talk to counselors and record them.
It's funny that earlier, Travis, you mentioned this idea that we need to do this bigger picture thinking on convincing parents of the value of sending their kids to camp, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And last night I had a board meeting, and my board I've come to understand over years here at Pierce Williams, our board of directors is just different. It's a different group of people than almost every board that I hear about. And our board is very much focused on the vision of Pierce Williams and where we're going, and they don't get overly involved in how we get there, right? So as long as we offer an amazing program, our board, so last night I had a board meeting, and we sat around for an hour and a half and just talked about how to share our story and how to get stories from campers and how those stories are going, the memories, the pictures, the images are what are going to convince people to partner with camp, to join us, either by sending kids or by giving monetary donations or by giving their time, right? And it was a long conversation last night, and I leave board meetings like that just thinking, this is it. Like I'm in the right place, and this is what I should continue to do.
Yeah.
So it was great.
That's awesome. Your family photo idea, I don't know if they showed you when you were at Green River Preserve, that they have a photo station that's just off the parking lot. You know, they sort of know where they're heading, but they stop past this little bench, in background that Green River Preserve has created, and the photographer takes a picture of the family together, and they send those out to the individual families, and they often become the Christmas card. So I think you're really onto something there.
That's great. Yeah.
I think it's a cool idea. So, Cabot, Waro, is there some program stuff you folks have been talking about?
Yeah, we're looking at, it goes back to when you're looking at change, I think a lot of the times we have to look beyond the symptoms and look at the cause. And I had a new staff member that was in charge of tallying all of our staff feedback. And she came to me and she had all of these changes, ideas. She's like, oh, we need to, start lunch 15 minutes early, but then we need to, let it last 15 minutes longer. But also some people want it 20 minutes shorter. So we have to do something about lunch. And I was telling her, we don't make change based on the panic. We have to look at what the main issues are and why they're the way they are. So if when it came to talking about activism or talking about social responsibility, et cetera, what are some of the things that you can do at camp? And conversation is really important, but doing stuff is also important. And something just as simple as kids learning how to fix sew their pants if there's a hole in it, or if their flashlight is broken. But we're basically going to create an activity just called Fix It. Yeah. And they can bring whatever they want to that activity, and for an hour they can learn how to fix things. They can help each other fix things, and it's just to lessen the impact of throwing things out. When I was younger, buying a pair of jeans was quite expensive, and now you can literally get a pair of jeans at Forever 21 for $10. But the amount of landfill that contributes to is extremely high. Yeah. So trying to do sort of activities that are fun, that just allow a place to sit and chat, but also learn a new skill. So we're going to be working on Fix It, but it's, I want to put out the caution of changing things when there's a panic. So just slow down and let's look at the cause first, and then let's assess on how to address it.
Yeah. One thing, so Joe and Eva, I think see if there's anything, all three of you really, if there's anything that you would add before we wrap up the topic. I'll buy you a bit of time and talk about a book that was part of my Alt MBA program, and it's not handy to my desk that I could show you the cover for those watching on YouTube, but the book is called A Beautiful Constraint, and it is about massive changes that have happened when organizations have been forced by constraint to think differently. So, thinking about people asking for ideas and coming in with, being all hyped up about making big changes, or maybe lots and lots of little changes. Every time we'd ask our senior staff what they would change differently, the answer every year was we'd hire a second program director. And program director for us is the person who did fun things with the whole camp in general, and sort of gave every week a theme and made sure there was all sorts of creative stuff. And they had a huge impact on camp, but we never saw how a second program director, it would make one person's job easier, no doubt, but we never saw how the impact would be greatest. And one of the things that comes out of having only one program director when you're at camp, that person's job is really one of the toughest jobs, is that person lives to live with constraint. Like, I don't have time to make costumes for 15 people for a 30-second announcement. I'll have to be creative about it. And that book, A Beautiful Constraint, offers some great examples, but even some ways to think as a camp, like, we are limited by this. We're limited by budget. We're limited by time. We're limited by so many different things. But if we acknowledge those limits and then go beyond that, where do you go? One of my favorite examples, it's a video that I saw the other day. I saved it. If you look on the CampHacker YouTube channel, where many of you are watching this, you'll see a playlist called Staff Training videos to show at staff training. It's probably called. But that playlist, I added something to that this week that was a company or a professor who has a little company who's creating medical products to be used where there's no electricity, where there's no access to all these things. And what they created was now I'm going to lose it. It's that thing you put blood in and it spins it out, so it separates blood into all of its particulate parts. Based on how fast it spins, it all sort of separates in the vial. And I don't remember what that's called. Anyway, those things are really expensive. Centrifuge. Thank you. And those things are expensive and they're heavy, and so you can't use them in rural areas, and we can't use them without power, etc. So this professor's company has created a handheld centrifuge that costs less than $1. And it is basically a kid's game, many of you have likely seen, where it has a disc in the middle, a flat disc in the middle, and string that comes out the side that are tied in loops. So you can put those strings over your middle fingers, and then you twist and twist and twist the string so that plate or disc in the middle, when you pull your hands apart, the string unwinds and it starts to spin. And as you get a rhythm going, you can get that thing going really quickly. And apparently that thing will do over 1,000 RPMs per minute, revolutions per minute, and can work as a centrifuge. So they've designed this thing that's $1. It costs $1, that you put in a little vial of blood. It'll separate the blood out, and then they can do tests with it. And that's just made by the constraint. Centrifuges are really helpful for diagnosing certain things in people's health, but we can't take them they're too heavy to take places, and they have to be powered. So what do? You end up with a $1 solution. So that idea of acknowledging constraints and saying, okay, within that, what do we do, is encouraging to me in terms of a philosophy to have for a camp. We need to make big changes, but we don't have any money and we don't have any time. So what do we do? And so I would encourage anyone to check out that book. It's really thoughtful, encouraging, and empowering, I think, as a camp director.
Travis, that made me think of one of the changes I had proposed or have proposed to myself, so I don't propose it to anybody else. But we, in our new program setup with choice-based programming, there's a lot of time spent dealing with the paperwork and figuring out where kids are going. And our program director is also in charge of Special Day, which is Thursday. And so in my plans, I have the idea of hiring animators. And animators is, right, Gab, that's the term they use for program people in
Quebec,
in Quebec, yeah. And I like the idea that it's a different than being a special program person. Yeah. The plan is to hire one or two animators, and their whole job is to make camp, that special day, and any events related to the theme so memorable that the kids are never going to forget them, right? And they don't have to have the daily focus of worrying about what's going on with this program, that program, that program. It's literally they can put all of their energy into making camp this magical place for the kids that week. And if you rotate through a few animators over the course of the summer, what you're doing is giving them skills to be better program people and potentially a better program director into the future. So that is our plan. Cost-wise, I haven't budgeted it out, but I don't ever really think about it that much. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What a great idea. And I love the title. I love the title.
Mm-hmm.
Neva, do you have any other stuff that you folks are thinking about for changes?
Honestly, all we're doing is trying to utilize our space. You were talking about beautiful constraints, and we are space limited at many of our facilities. And so we're just trying to find new ways to have educational program space where we are, as opposed to having a bigger facility.
Yeah.
So we're really looking at, for Florida, water is a huge issue, and our watersheds. And so, drainage ditches turned into gardens, and dealing with some of those sorts of issues.
Yeah, awesome. That's super great. How about Waro?
I was just thinking about what you just presented, Travis, with the dollar solution of with the blood thing. I got a little weak in the knees when you talked about it, and I'm not squeamish, but all of a sudden I was like, I'm feeling lightheaded.
Because you're excited about the idea, or just the thought of blood?
I think it was the blood thing, but the idea as well. But I think what I love is not thinking about camp as a summer camp, and looking at other companies and see what they do, and constantly evaluating, why do we do this way. And I had a conversation with Jeff Bradshaw many years ago, who's the owner and camp director of, or executive director of Winona. And he said he was talking to me about the wonderful opportunity that he has from starting from a blank slate.
Yeah.
And he had said to me that what was difficult with buying Waro was that we were inheriting 85 years of this is the way we do it. And he said to me, and you haven't escaped that. You're not questioning. You're questioning some stuff, but you're not questioning everything. And it really stuck with me. And that's when I started looking at other companies and saying, like, well, how do they do that? How does Google do this? How does Google treat their staff members? How do just the program, the item that you just talked about, and how can your camp is a blank slate, and questioning how you do things and bringing your staff into those conversations, I think, is so powerful. And the other thing is that there's certain things that we've implemented at Waro 10 years ago that just seemed like pushing a boulder up a hill.
Yep.
And it seemed tedious, and it was difficult, but 10 years later, it has completely infiltrated our culture as if it's always been there. And so I guess what I'm saying is, don't lose heart when you believe in something.
Yeah.
And start it off. That snowball will keep building and building and building, but change takes time, and that's okay. But time can be a great friend, and not think that you need to make all of that change in that one summer.
Yep.
It's completely linear. So, but I love looking at other places and listening to how people are doing things, and try to let that influence how you do things.
Well, I thank you all for an amazing conversation. I've had chills and had lots of great emotions as thinking about all these different possibilities coming out of just this idea, like, what do we do? What can be done differently, and how do we think about this in the biggest possible way? I will leave you with one thing, and I'm not ready to post it anywhere yet, but I've had a few conversations in the past 3 months that I think could impact this. What are we going to do different? And it's a process of helping staff understand what it means to be a parent, and then how the camp can understand the life of a parent, so we can talk to them better, tell our stories better, and get more kids this opportunity that we have. And so we've done this. Laura and I have done this very graphically. We did a version of it with the Florida 4-H folks in the spring last year, and we've done it in November, and we just did it at the MAC conference last week. And I think it's a good challenge to staff to get them to think about the families, other than just being a transportation system that gets kids to camp, and getting them to really consider how stressful it is to be a parent, what their lives are like, etc. That helps them look after kids better. But also, as camp directors, when we have that bigger discussion, it helps us consider how we serve families and how we can make a difference in their lives. And that's something that I would encourage many camps to consider doing this year differently, is really considering families and what they go through and how we can best serve them. So that would be my final word on that topic. So that means that we are then ready to turn over to our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome to the CampHacker podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or listening to this on your phone, we take this time to ask each of the panelists to share with us a tool that helps them be a better camp director. And Neva, you're first, and you've got a great one, and I'm excited for you to share it. So why don't you lead us off with your tool of the week?
Absolutely. My tool of the week is the app MyFitnessPal, which you can download to any smartphone. And it just helps you track your health a little bit, what you're eating, what you're not eating. It reminds you to eat it. And if you're a busy camp director, sometimes we forget that.
Yeah.
And it also pairs with any of your fitness trackers. So it just helps you manage some of that work-life balance a little better.
That's awesome. And is there a cost to it, Neva? Do you know?
No, it is free. So you can download it for free. You can do, if you're more interested in some of the more technical things like tracking your macros and really exploring your nutrition, you can pay for the service, but otherwise it's free. And it works pretty well to remind you you haven't eaten enough that day, or you need to drink a little more water every day and get up and move.
Awesome. Good one. Thank you. Joe, what's your tool?
My tool of the week is a book I picked up over the holidays called Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. Now, Tim Ferriss is most famous for the 4-Hour Work Week, the 4-Hour Body series, the 4-Hour series of books. This is it's a tome. It's a big book. 700 pages, or I lied, 660 pages. So it's a big book. When you get into it, I literally have Post-it notes that I carry when I'm reading the book so I can mark pages and go back to them. Just because it's full. Essentially what it is Tim Ferriss has interviewed for his own podcast. He's interviewed, thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of people over the course of his podcast and just for books and whatnot. And this is him sitting down, just making a Cliff Note version of all of the conversations for him to have. And then he realized this is good stuff, and he made the book. It's great. It's a book that you can go back to time and time again. So it's not a read through and be done with it. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome. Everything from, there's lots of diet advice to how to build a barrel sauna. Yep. Which I'm totally going to do. He does a lot of these questions on his podcast. He always asks what the best $100 or less purchase is. Mm. There's lots of book recommendations from the various people, different exercises. I was just reading about meditation, and it's just invaluable. And I'm only 150 pages into 600 pages.
Yeah,
so
that's really cool. One of the sections, I think, is called 17 Questions I Ask Myself All the Time. And he did a podcast just on that section, and the questions are really smart. So that's available on his blog as well as in that book, and it's really, really good thinking for camp directors in terms of the philosophy of their business and stuff like that. So I will try to get Matt to put that in the show notes, or I'll find it to give to Matt to put in the show notes for this show. So you want to find the tools of the week and all the past ones, you can go to camphacker.tv/podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, just look back through this playlist and you'll see all those tools from the past, now 98 episodes. I think this is 97. So that's all available there. Thank you, Joe. Gab, what's your tool?
My tool is called Unsplash, and Unsplash is a free stock picture website, and I like it because I like good design, I like good photography. I'm always pushing camps to push their design boundaries so they are a little bit more approachable to new families. But I think the most valuable part about Unsplash is that it has great examples of what good photography looks like. And a lot of the time that has to do with angles. A lot of the time that has to do with lessening the noise, meaning, a knapsack here and taking those things out. So I think it's a great sort of source of inspiration. But if you also need imagery for your website, I check it out, and all you have to do is cite them, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So that's unsplash.com, Gab, do you think?
That is unsplash.com. Yep.
Right on. Thank you. My tool of the week is one that I've heard great things about but haven't read. It is one of those books that's related but not directly to what we do. It's a book called Service Fanatics by Dr. James Merlino. It's written for healthcare. And if you're Canadian and looking at these things, it might not be so directly relative to our healthcare system. But it's interesting that in a healthcare system with a lot different philosophy, how important service is. And I would say service is very important in every healthcare system. Having friends who are struggling to change the NHS in the UK and people involved in that here. Anyway, this book called Service Fanatics is really about that mindset of looking after people and considering their needs and doing things to support them and going above and beyond. Certainly Disney is known for that service philosophy in their organizations, but this is just a different perspective that I think can have some really great impact. And I've had this book recommended by many people, and so I'm looking forward to digging into that and showing some pearls on the show here or on one of the blogs. The other thing that is a sub-tool of that is I love when I hear about these books. Like many of you, I keep a list of them, or I keep an Amazon wish list, or have stuff on Pinterest. But I love to look for Amazon used books for some of these books that are maybe 3 or 4 years old or older. Often find them for used books. I paid 1 cent for that Service Fanatics book, and I paid $6 to have it shipped here to Canada from Florida. And I'm sure the book, when it was on sale, was $30. There you go. And because it's used, I was able to get it for, in fact, this has a price tag in euros. So who knows where somebody picked it up. But I love to find the used books, and often if it's a book that I'm sort of on the edge about, if I can pay $6 or $7 instead of $30, I'll just buy it and add it to my one particular shelf of books I really need to read. Books I really have to get to. So, there you go. That is Service Fanatics by Dr. James Merlino. I want to thank you all for being here, Neva. It's been awesome to have you join us for this time. Grateful to have you.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for adding your wisdom to it. Neva, if people have some questions and want to follow up with you, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
They can check out our website at florida4h.org. Under camps, you will find all of my contact information.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Neva.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And Joe?
Thanks for having me. People can find me at campasbetter.com as Pierce Williams and everything I do, and then yoyojoe.com, YOYOJOE.
I like that you had your radio voice so that every time. YOYOJOE.
If you grew up watching Detroit television, there's a commercial that called Just Dial Diamond, DIAMOND, and it's literally, if you grew up in the 80s watching Detroit television, so when you're somewhere, I could be in New Orleans at a conference and hear somebody go say diamond, and then you can see people say in their head, Just Dial Diamond, DIAMOND, and it means you grew up within the broadcasting area of Detroit. So,
right on. Thank you. And Gabrielle, thank you for adding some great stuff to it today. How can people get in touch with you?
You can check out where I work at ouareau.com, OUAREAU.com. I always have to, my eyes always go up to try to think how to spell that. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Gabrielle Rail or at Instagram, Gabrielle Rail.
Perfect. Thank you to all of you. The other thing I would say in closing is if you appreciated what these people have done and shared, and would like to share this episode, you can go to camphacker.tv/love. That will put in some stuff that I wrote for you into your Twitter, but you're welcome to edit that and share that out in any way possible. I want to thank you for joining us again. Go to camphacker.tv/podcast for the show note for this episode and all the previous ones. I can confirm that this is episode 96, so we need to start thinking about what we're going to do for the big 100. So anyway, thank you for watching, thank you for listening wherever you are, and thank you for the evening, friends.
The Camp Hacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening. Camp Hacker, bringing your world into focus.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.